Right now, in a lab somewhere, a scientist is looking at a number that shouldn't exist. Not a conspiracy, a real one. Published, peer-reviewed, measured in your own body. It's in your brain, in the way you're born, in the skin you're standing in right now. And it points to a question most people never let themselves ask. What if you weren't actually built for this planet? I'm not talking about aliens. I'm talking about biology. The same biology scientists have quietly argued over for 60 years. By the end of this video, you'll understand why that argument still isn't settled. Picture a wolf standing in snow, a fish gliding through black water, a bird cutting through wind 300 feet above the ground. Their bodies aren't just bodies. They're proof, physical receipts, written by the planet that made them for the exact world they live in. Now picture a newborn human. No fur, no claws, no armor. A body so unfinished at birth it can't lift its own head, let alone survive one night alone in the wild. It will take over a year just to walk. And inside that fragile, defenseless body sits an organ that burns through nearly 20% of its entire energy supply for something that weighs barely 2% of its mass. No other species on Earth makes that trade. Not one. So ask yourself this. If evolution only keeps what helps something survive, why would it build something this expensive, this fast, on a planet that never seemed to demand it? That question has a name in scientific circles, and chasing it leads somewhere far stranger than anyone expects. To find the answer, we have to leave Earth for a moment. September 1969. A fireball tears across the sky, over a quiet town in Australia, and shatters into fragments across the countryside. Inside those fragments, a rock older than the planet it landed on. When scientists cracked it open under laboratory light, they found something that, by every normal rule, shouldn't have been there. Amino acids. The literal chemical alphabet of life, sealed inside. A rock that had been drifting through space for billions of years before. Earth had oceans, before it had an atmosphere, before it had anything alive on it at all. That discovery didn't just surprise scientists. It reopened a question they thought was already closed. Did life begin here, or did it arrive? The theory has a name, Panspermia. The idea that the raw ingredients of life were carried here on comets and asteroids, like seeds scattered on solar wind, landing on a planet that simply happened to be ready. This isn't internet speculation. Francis Crick, co-discoverer of the structure of DNA, one of the most respected scientists of the 20th century, took it seriously enough to publish his own version, suggesting life might have been deliberately placed here by an intelligence that came before us. A Nobel laureate, not a fringe theorist. But here's the part that should unsettle you. Even if panspermia is real, even if the raw material for life truly did fall from the sky, it only explains where the ingredients came from. It doesn't explain why one species, out of millions, would go on to break every rule that shaped everything else on this planet. It doesn't explain us. And that's exactly where the story turns. Here's the detail most documentaries skip, because it's the one that actually unsettles the researchers who study it. The human skeleton you have right now, the skull, the brain size, the exact anatomy of a modern human being, appears in the fossil record roughly 300,000 years ago. Fully formed, fully modern, fully you. But the paintings, the language, the burial rituals, the symbolic art, every trace of a mind actually thinking the way yours does, that evidence doesn't appear until nearly 100,000 years later. Some researchers place the real explosion even closer, 50,000 years ago. Sit with that. Our bodies were finished. And then they simply sat there, unused, silent, for longer than the entirety of recorded human history, repeated 20 times over, before something switched our minds on. This is the moment everything you thought, you understood, gets rebuilt from the ground up, because the real question was never where our bodies came from. It's this. What was waiting inside us for 100,000 years? And what finally woke it up? Science does have an answer, just not a complete one. Most researchers believe our intelligence wasn't planted, and it wasn't gifted. It was earned, forged slowly through something called the social brain hypothesis, as early humans crowded into larger, more complicated groups, rivals, allies, strangers, family, outsmarting and out-cooperating each other may have rewarded sharper minds more than any predator or famine ever did. Our biology, almost certainly, is entirely Earthborn. The fossils prove it. A 6 million-year lineage connects us to a common ancestor we share with chimpanzees. Our DNA is roughly 98.8% identical to theirs. There is no gap in that chain wide enough for a spaceship, a seed pod, or an ancient intelligence to slip through. But the timing of our awakening still doesn't fit the theory cleanly. If social pressure alone flipped the switch, why did it take so unbelievably long? Humans lived in groups for hundreds of, thousands of years before that explosion of thought ever happened. Was it a genetic mutation still buried somewhere in the fossil record, waiting to be found? A shift in diet that rewired brain chemistry? A climate catastrophe that made cooperation the only path left to survival? Every explanation on the table is credible. Every one of them is still unproven. And that unresolved gap is exactly what makes this one of the last true mysteries about our own species. Not because the answer is unknowable, but because no one has found it yet. So, are we from Earth? Nearly every fossil, every strand of DNA, every scrap of hard evidence says yes. But the moment our minds woke up, the exact spark that turned a finished body into a questioning mind, that part of the story is still unwritten. Maybe that's the detail worth sitting with tonight. Every atom inside you, the calcium in your bones, the iron carried in your blood, was forged inside a star that died billions of years before this planet ever existed. In the most literal sense, science can offer, you already came from space, long before any theory needed to explain it. A shark never wonders why it's a shark. A bird never questions where its wings came from. You are the only known being in this entire universe that lies awake at night asking where it came from, and somehow still doesn't fully know the answer. Maybe that's not a flaw in the story. Maybe that's the whole point of it. If this left you as unsettled as it left me, tell me in the comments. And if you want to keep chasing the questions science hasn't answered yet, subscribe. There's more waiting.